Welcome to the Sage Verse, with real works and true words. Patterns of recognition leave your brain converged. Time is irrelevant when the thoughts of impediment corrupt your soul with mind-numbing nemesis. The sage's way is where the truth hits the page. Turn your soul into a library in the name of knowledge and discovery. We seek out reality to be gone of human apathy. Welcome to the Sage Verse, where we discuss the pressing questions of our age. My name's Jason, and today I'm joined by a good friend of mine and fellow founder of the channel, Hermes. How you doing today, brother?
Very well, thank you, Jason. This is the Sage's Way podcast, and as today's our 10th episode, we've got a little special edition we're going to be discussing. Do you want to let us know what it is?
Sure. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about our experiences in China, specifically learning martial arts on Wudang Mountains in the Hubei province, where I actually met Hermes for the first time, funnily enough.
Hence the outfit.
Indeed. Unfortunately, I couldn't partake. It's a bit disappointing, but
no worries.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about our experiences, our motivations behind going, and generally, what did we learn from the experience? And I'm sure you'll have some ideas that you want to share too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
So I guess, first off, why did you go all the way to China to learn martial arts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very out of the blue thing to do, like to travel from London all the way across the world to, a desolate place in China, Wudang Mountain to be specific. More than just, wanting to learn martial arts, which was a part of it. Like, I was always interested in kind of kung fu movies when I was young and things like that. So it's definitely always an interest of mine. But my kind of main motivation for going was to kind of step out of the formulated path of my life. Essentially, we discussed in a previous episode the idea of kind of feeling like you're in a simulated reality to an extent. And I always felt as though, since I was born, you go to nursery, you kind of have your parents overlooking you, kind of guiding you. You go to school, then college, then university. It's kind of like there's a very planned path in society for how your life tends to go.
The traditional route, right? No,
essentially, the traditional route. And even, for example, with myself, I really had, in a good way, like guides in my life. Even the university course I had chosen was essentially pretty much planned out for me, and it's something I didn't even end up doing or enjoying. So yeah, pretty much I just really wanted to just do the most sporadic, crazy thing I could do. Just break the simulation and to step out of that way of my life. And I guess have that time and contemplation to really think how I want to pull the strings of my own life. What I was really searching for was that peace, just time, essentially, like time to really look at my own life and how I can guide it in the way I want to. Kind of soul searching, I would say. How about yourself?
No, exactly. I was stepping out of your comfort zone, right? And you find comfort by challenging yourself in some sense, in some kind of twisted sense, that in order to find that peace, you need to challenge yourself so that you can overcome battles, you can put yourself in the deep end and survive. And then in that process, you learn about yourself and you discover your strengths, your weaknesses, and within that you find a sense of serenity. So for
it's
me,
like seek discomfort. I always like that quote.
Oh, for sure.
Step out of your comfort zone. Push the boundaries of what you're capable of. Yeah, and that journey definitely did that for me.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So I suppose for me, again, you mentioned about, tackling that traditional route, breaking the matrix or stepping out of the system and choosing a route that is alternative to what it seems to be that everyone does. Yeah, there was definitely that underlying motivation for me. And I suppose just beyond that as well, the desire to develop myself physically and mentally, because you're on a mountain, you're training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you are forced to push yourself physically. And having that extra free time when I'm not training to pursue what I'm passionate about, which is writing and reading, that was just
Yeah,
you
we
know,
both
another
went out for quite
bonus.
similar reasons, I think. Yeah, the writing side, the
I
reading
remember.
side.
I remember it was
Yeah.
definitely we definitely bonded over our passions for
Mm-hmm.
reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was the strange thing, is that we had a similar um, goal, or similar
Mm.
goals at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting place to kind of meet each other. And I mean, to do that, to make that jump, for anyone that may be interested in, maybe not the same way, but I guess having your own kind of mad journey, to step outside of the
Go live with
simulation of your
monks.
own life. Yeah, whichever way you decide to do it, it's not an easy thing to do. Like for myself anyway, like I had to essentially come out of university. I eventually started working, and I was around university time I made this decision for myself. I was telling everyone constantly, like, I'm going to China, even though I didn't have
Oh,
any money to do it. Just all the time, I was just repeating it. It was just
the
an
same.
obsession of mine. I'm going to go to China for a year. I'm going to live on a mountain for. I kept saying it and saying it until, yeah, everyone around me believed it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I until I had the money to essentially make it happen, and I also had to, because it's very easy to get tied in with a lot of things in society. There's phone contracts, there's Wi-Fi contracts, there's relationships, there's so many things that can essentially tie you in. There's mortgages and jobs and blah 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 blah. The list goes on. The things that kind of
Cars
make you
being a
tied
big
to
one
your
there as well.
environment. Cars, yeah, exactly. I was literally someone that avoided having relationships. I bought my phones outright. Like, I didn't have any loans. I didn't have any, strong things tying me to the environment I was
Mm.
living in, because I knew I was going to make this journey. And eventually it finally came, the opportunity to do it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how about for yourself? You came just after university, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was experiencing the same thing as you, I imagine. Like when you first tell people, they're like, "Oh, you're not going to do it," or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get the initial reactions, which are, "Well, this is a bit too extreme for reality."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come
Yeah.
down to reality. You can't just go over to a mountain and learn kung fu for 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
People will think, you're a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sense to it. Why would you want to do that? And I
Mm-hmm.
suppose the underlying sense for me was the intangible virtues that I would gain from an experience like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that they're invaluable for life. They're invaluable for one's character. And, they're beyond sight. You don't know how you're going to shape when you come out of an experience like that.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing yourself in a completely foreign environment and saying, adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You're removing all your Western style comforts. I remember when I first arrived, if we're going to talk about, what the
Yeah, well, I was
experience
gonna
was
say
like now.
let's jump into, because you arrived
Yeah,
about a month before I did. It was actually
yeah.
lucky timing for me, because I heard there was some kind of like water was frozen. No one had water for
Oh,
like
this was
a
what I was going
month
to
or
say.
something. I
I,
missed that period. So if you want to kind of go and you
yeah.
arrive in China now, you arrive at your school. What's it like?
All right. So I remember first arriving, and so the taps are in the shower were frozen for starters, and there were cockroaches all up the walls. And in my bed, I didn't have any bed sheets. I didn't have anything like that, and
Oof, man.
it was cold as fuck outside. You know what I mean? It was, I think, -8 at some point, and
Mm-hmm.
the snow was ridiculous. But I was like, this is it. I've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I signed up for. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
I signed up for like the double bed. So I just have I think I'm sharing the double, I have a double bed to myself, and there's another double
Mm-hmm.
bed in the room. So it's like
So
two
one
people
of
in the
the
same
shared
room.
room. Okay.
Yeah. At first I was fortunate, but in hindsight, not so fortunate. I had no one in the room, so it was by myself, which, it seems nice
Saved
and
a
all
bit of
that.
money at first.
Yeah, but it was super cold upstairs in those rooms, and because they hadn't
Okay.
been touched and they hadn't been used, and there weren't many foreigners at the school that I chose. There were just two other foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite isolating. It was freezing there.
Ooh.
The
It's a tough
Yeah, it was just
transition. You arrived
it
in
was
winter, I'm guessing. Was it January
yeah just
2018?
yeah it was January 2018, and the
Yeah.
temperatures were awful, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just when I went downstairs and saw the cheaper option, which was
Mm-hmm.
a bunk bed setup, and the two foreign lads, they were sleeping on bunk beds, and it was much warmer. It was downstairs, and the toilet layout was better and everything like that. So I was like, why not just join you lads and we'll just stay in bunk beds? So yeah, I did that on like the third night, I think, and I ended up getting some money back for because it was cheaper and it was better. The bed was better, funny enough.
And the training regime, what was that like at your school?
Oh, so the training regime, I still remember it, was wake up at 7. You'd run for about a half an hour, 40 minutes. Then you would start off with whatever basic routine, be it leg kicks, not leg kicks as we know it, but you know the leg kicks, the ones where you
kind of lines.
Yeah, you're doing the line
kicks,
and
different kicks. You're going back and forth doing
just basic forms. So you would do that, and it would change every day. Someday you will. It will change every day, but these are consistent styles that you will be learning, right? So maybe one day you'll be learning. I can't remember the name, but you know the punch where you're in a Mabu stance, and then you twist your hips, and so basic punch, basic punch. We do that, just that move alone for about an hour and a half, you know. Just training,
just testing your patience, your will, like
everything. So that was fun.
So it's about 6 hours a day at your school.
Yeah, so you train till around lunchtime, and then lunchtime would come about 11, 12, and then you'd have a 2 or 3 hour lunch break, and I can't remember whether you start again at 2 or 4, and then you train up into the evening. So it works out about 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day. And I mean, when the clocks hit 8 o'clock, I think it was, or 10 o'clock, the school gates would close. So you're not
so you're like prisoners.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a story that I could go down on that one, but the time we snuck out and went to a bar,
I've got a story like that as well. We can go into, but if I'm going to talk about my school, so we had the similar options like shared room. I'm a bit antisocial, as you know. I'm a INTJ, if any MBTI knows. Very introvert. So I like my own space. I need my own space. So I guess I actually took like an extra year saving just so I could have a single room. But like you said, you arrive there, it's just cold as fuck. It's very isolated. You're like, wow, this is real now. I remember stepping into that room. It was literally just a single bed, a desk. That was pretty much it. A little box room, obviously a little box shower and toilet. Just freezing cold. I got there in February, so a bit after you. I luckily did have running water, so I think I remember the people in my school saying that the taps were frozen, so I was lucky enough to miss that little portion. I was able to
we didn't shower for 2 weeks or something.
I remember you
and we were training.
Yeah, so you must have stunk, man. I arrived now. I've got my room. I'm like, okay, this is very real. And I guess I wake up the next day, and then we're straight into the training routine. In my school, it was essentially 7 hours of training a day. The first hour, we wake up at 5:30 a.m. and we did Qigong in the freezing cold outside. Which is about an hour practice. Qigong is kind of similar to yoga. It's like very held postures. It's pretty tough. And it's more of an internal practice, though, rather than a very heavily physical practice. Then you kind of go back, try to get a little bit of sleep. Then you come back out, breakfast, and then we go straight into morning training, which was... So we had about 5 hours of training split into 2 segments. There was morning training and then an afternoon training. In between, you have about an hour gap to, again, you try to get as much sleep as you can throughout the day. So about 5 hours of training, similar to what you were saying, kind of like loads of kicks, loads of punches, loads of form, held postures, and we would have form training as well. So different kind of forms. Things like Tai Chi, various other forms I can go into a bit more later.
I was going to ask, did they focus on different forms, or just try to focus you on one form at the beginning?
Well, our school actually gave us like a choice kind of thing if
Mm,
you wanted it. I had no idea. I literally went out there without doing any research. So I had
mm.
a very good coach, and I asked him to pretty much kind of guide me at first until I learned a bit more. And he said he often recommended doing a very heavily external form and then switching to
Mm.
an internal form. So, and then kind of going back and forth. So, like a very external form is a very physical form, loads of jumps and kicks, and very,
Yep.
something that's going to really break down your body. Your body muscles are going to be sore that month. And then the month after, you're doing an internal practice, something
Oh,
like Tai Chi, which I actually found more difficult. My first, essential 3 months, I was learning a long 30-minute Tai Chi form. And before I went out to China as well, I forgot to mention, I had a lot of anxiety I was dealing with, which is also a reason I went out there. And
mm.
I guess Tai Chi is something you move very slowly. You have to be very patient, very in the moment, very present. And it's almost like torture when you're because you're having to fully experience yourself. Sometimes with anxiety, depression, people sedate themselves with, addictions and entertainment, TV. So doing a practice like Tai Chi while having that feeling, you're fully present with yourself. You're really working through that internal conflict. It is an internal practice. You're really working on
100%.
the inside. Yeah. And I
Unless your
remember
knees buckle, I remember.
at the beginning of that 3 months, I hated Tai Chi. At the end of it, I was never more at peace with myself, and I never loved the practice more.
What about those first 2 weeks with the knees?
Yeah, so
Or shall I
I
say
would
maybe more
say,
like a month? I mean, they would not let you take a break, and
yeah,
your knees at this point can't
literally.
even like
My body for the
they
first,
just
I'd
never
say, two or
healed.
3 months, my body was in pain. Walking up the stairs, I was like, ow, ow, ow. Like, it was just constant pain. And I would also like to add that, not to I want to be completely authentic. I sucked. The first 2, 3 months, I was awful. I think I mentioned some in a video before with Jason. Like I didn't really have any prior training in martial arts whatsoever, or sports for that matter, or really exercise. I was about 30 centimeters away from touching my toes. Like that's how unfit I
Mm.
was. Like, so the first 2 or 3 months, like I was really being pushed by my coach. I was, yeah, just really not very good. And I guess we can jump into a story because I met Jason maybe within a month of training there. And yeah, do you want to kind of,
I
yeah, an
remember it
initial
was your first
introduction?
2 weeks. It was your
Mm,
first 2 weeks where we met, and I
mm.
remember. Should we go? Should we jump into the story about
Yeah, we
the
can jump
climb on the
into the
mountain?
story.
Yeah. Okay. So me and Mario had the great idea of climbing Wudang Mountain. Now
Mm-hmm.
I think I had previously climbed it like maybe a couple of days or a week before with my friends from the school that I was training at, and we went through a farmer's route. So it was a little bit faster, but also a bit
Mm-hmm.
sketch because we didn't actually have tickets at the time, and
Yeah, just to add, the
it's what it
total
is.
climb of
Yeah.
Wudang Mountain's about 3 hours of stairs, literally just upwards. Maybe seen it in
Nah,
the
longer than
Karate Kid
that.
with
Longer than
in
that.
the probably longer, yeah. In the Karate Kid, with Jaden Smith, that the scene where he climbs a mountain with Jackie Chan, and like he
Mm.
has, you see the people doing Tai Chi. That's actually Wudang Mountain. That's where that was filmed. So if you want to kind of bit insight what it looked like, so a lot of people would have seen that movie. But yeah, jump back into it, Jason. So
Yeah.
we're trying
So
to we make this bright idea. We're gonna climb Wudang Mountain. What happened?
yeah. So I think we. What time did we set out? Was it in the 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock?
Far too. I think it was around four-ish. Yeah,
It was about 4ish. And the thing is,
yeah.
this is
And it's
the
winter,
climb is
so it
about
gets.
7 hours, by the way, in total.
Hmm.
I remember it was like, I think between 4 and 7 hours, depending on how fast you are and the route that you take. And
Yeah, we
yeah,
took
so
a
we set
long route.
out. Yeah, we took the long route, but we also took the stairs, and we didn't take into consideration that your knees were jacked because this was the first 2 weeks.
My first two
And the
weeks of
first
training,
two
like I
weeks,
said, I was very physically unfit. My legs were in pain, and yeah, I
your
suddenly
knees were
had this bright
fucked.
idea to climb Wudang Mountain in the afternoon. which is a timely kind of effort. So,
but I think the viewers need to understand that you had been training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for the first 2 weeks with no breaks, with no experience. So your limbs were literally already fucked before starting the climb. Yeah. So with that in mind, I remember we're about 2 hours in, and it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you're like Jason, I can't do this. And I'm like, no, we have to do this. We have to do this. And then
you're like, it's starting to get dark now because it's winter.
It's starting to get dark, and we're stuck in the. We're at this point. We're about halfway through, I would say, or like maybe a third of the way. I don't know. Maybe a third. It was
around a third to halfway. Yeah. And essentially, like, we're here, like, I'm pretty much like, no, I physically cannot do this. We're stuck in the middle of the Wudang Mountain, halfway up the climb. It's getting dark. There's no one else there because no one attempts to climb the mountain at that time. You know, it's things are basically shutting down.
Dark.
Any shops on the mountain are shutting down. Temples are kind of shutting down. It's dark. We start hearing animal noises. We're like, damn, we're trapped.
Wild monkeys coming out to play.
Freezing cold.
Yeah, so I was trying to motivate you. I didn't know that your knees were that bad, but at the time, and I was trying to motivate you, and you were telling me, no, we can't. But I was trying to motivate you because I thought that we were fucked either way.
Yeah,
because we were in the middle of a mountain. There was no facilities. The hotel that we wanted to stay at was at the top of the mountain, which was another 2-3 hours that we'd have to climb through the dark. So I was like, all right, let's just see if there's some hope here. And it happened, right? We were climbing, and then we saw this light.
First thing, like, every shop was shut, everything was shut. Like, I thought we were gonna freeze to death, on Wudang Mountain. What will we think? I gave up because I was like, we started this too late. Like, there's no hope. We're not gonna make it up there. Like, and then we finally see a kind of light. We just kept going slowly, and we saw a light. We're like, life, and we ran to it. And yeah, what was it, Jason?
Yeah, so it was this old man, and he had I think it was like a shop or something.
Yeah,
I think he was sleeping there though. Yeah, he was sleeping there as well. And there were police officers there as well, I believe, which was, hopeful. And
again, this part of China,
we asked him.
There's no English, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no English. Don't even think about English. That's the hilarious part actually. But yeah, so I was like, we need a place to stay. And I was like, I was trying to translate that we're fucked. I think he could see that we were fucked because there was no. I was like, "Where is the hotel?" Trying to translate. There was no connection on that. We didn't have connection on the mountain or anything like that.
Yeah, no connection.
So he understood, and I said, "Look, we need to sleep here," and he was like, "Yeah, that's fine." After I don't know, 2 minutes of conversation, and he put together a place for us to stay. It was on the bunk bed, right?
Yeah, it's literally next to his shop. It was literally like just something looked pretty much made out of a cardboard box, a room made out of a cardboard box, pretty much. We went in there. There was like a bunk bed. There was no cushions whatsoever. It was 2 planks of wood essentially made into a bunk bed. And yeah, he said we could stay, which was super appreciative. He pretty much saved us from freezing.
I think we paid him 10 kwai each, or something like 20 kwai, like a couple quid for the night.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And the funniest thing though was that there were carcasses, meat hanging on the radiators in the room.
Jason didn't mind too much, but I'm a vegetarian, just to add, and it's a common thing you'll see in China walking through marketplaces. They just have slabs of meat on hooks just hanging. To me, it was horrendous. Funny, Jason didn't really mind, but yeah, we get in this room now. Yeah. There's like 5 massive carcasses of meat just like kind of hanging there dead on the wall.
Yeah, just dead carcasses on the wall. And you were trying to tell him that, can you move these from the room? And I was thinking, come on, I was thinking in my
mind. You're like, beggars can't be choosers, man.
I was like, we've got a place to stay. Let's just sleep here. It doesn't matter. But anyway, he was like, he misinterpreted what we were trying to say.
You want to eat?
We wanted to eat him. That's the funny thing, man. Like, and then he was
hilarious. I think in the end, he kind of got. I learned how to say I'm vegetarian very early on in China because it's a very hard place to be live as a vegetarian. So yeah, I said that to him, and he kind of got the gist, and he moved them into his shop actually. So it was really nice of him. But yeah, so we had a place to stay. We escaped the freezing cold and the mountain, the animal noises. Yeah, we had a little shack to stay in, and again, no heating. It was like ice cold, middle of the Chinese winter, and we have a little bunk bed. I think we literally had to go back to back on
Yeah,
on one
we
of the
did.
little things. Yeah,
Because there was only one quilt, so we didn't really have a choice.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it was a hilarious kind of first 2 weeks to step into. Our schools had no idea where we were as well. I got it a little bit when I got back. I don't know about you.
Well, I was on holiday during that period because my school closed down. I had nowhere to stay. You
Hmm.
remember? I
Oh
think that
yeah,
was when
yeah.
I was staying in the hotel. Um,
I remember.
because my
Yeah.
school shut down, and I was like, well, I need to find a place to stay, and they don't usually take foreigners because
Hmm.
I don't know the reason behind it, but some passport stuff. They don't like to host foreigners, so it was a bit
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, with my school, they
But
had kind of no idea where I disappeared to. I got it. Got in trouble a little bit when I got back and told you have to kind of let us know. We're in charge of you essentially while you're here. You can't
mm,
really be disappearing like that. But anyway, we survived that. We woke up the next day. We finished our climb on the mountain. We saw the
about two
Golden
two
Summit.
extra hours,
2 extra
two extra
hours,
hours,
yeah.
something like
We
that.
saw the Golden Summit, which I have on my wrist here. I don't know if you can see. That's the top of Wudang Mountain. Amazing when you get up there. It's literally like 5 kilometers or more in the sky.
Mm.
You're essentially immersed in clouds. There's this little Golden Summit temple right at the top. It's just beautiful. It's a sight to behold. Really amazing. Also, while we're up there, I remember we visited someone that was studying in the mountains as well. I think he's got quite a few subscribers on YouTube. Like George
Oh yeah,
Thompson, is it?
George Thompson. Yeah, yeah, I
Mm.
remember.
Yeah, yeah. We
And
met
Mr.
him.
Gao,
Hmm. Yeah,
Mr. Gao.
yeah. So it's an interesting little journey. But then yeah, essentially we came back down, and I was getting immersed back into my training. I guess you waited out your holiday, and then you got back into your training as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all blurry at that time. I remember just coming down the mountain. I was really keen to walk down, but that was
Hmm.
stupid of me to say that. We ended up getting the what is it? What do we call those things
Yeah,
to
it's
get
like
down the mountain?
cable.
Yeah,
It's like a
cable
little
car.
kind of cable car. You kind of ride it
Yeah,
down and stuff. My
I
legs
wanted
were
to
just
save my 80 kwai.
finished. Yeah, my legs were essentially finished. That climbing that last 2 hours killed me. And Jason's like, "Let's climb down now." I was like, "Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up."
Oh,
Yeah, so we wrote it
that was
down.
sad.
Yeah, that's one of the I always tell people that story. It's hilarious. It was like really funny story. But again,
Yeah.
yeah, back into the training. It took a lot of, I guess, perseverance, really pushing myself. Like I said, the first 3 months, it was just, yeah, my body was just in agony. I really had to, it was almost like my coach was pulling me to do the training, essentially. And I'd say around 3 or 4 months, how it works in our school anyway, it's kind of like when you line up, like there was 9 people, Chinese, some foreign students in my school. When you line up, it's like the people at the front are the ones who had been there the longest, and
Mm.
then you line up in threes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I was at the back, yeah, at the beginning because I was new. When you're at the back, you're kind of learning. You're a new student. But 3 months down the line now, because a lot of people only came out there to learn for a month, 2 months. Like I was out there for a year, so it was around the 3, 4 month period where I, moved up to the front lines. And I guess when you're in that position, you have to kind of start being more of an example student. And I had another guy from England that came to my school. His name is George, and I guess he could see that I wasn't taking it as seriously as I should, and he felt. I always had a feeling he felt it was unfair. He was in the line before me, like just because I was here longer. And I remember that was a real big push for me. I was like, actually, I need to really step my game up now. I've been here for a while. I really want to, persevere and take this seriously. And it was kind of with everything. It was like an overall practice. It was not just the training. It was like every Wednesday they gave us these little brooms made out of
Yeah.
hay, and we had to sweep and clean the whole school. Being a very undisciplined person, I would just pretend to sweep a little bit, which is unfair to the other students. So things like that. I had to really just start disciplining myself and taking everything really seriously to push myself to do my fair share. And yeah, and I remember around that time, yeah, it was quite transformational for me. That's when I really started to dedicate myself to the practice, really decided I'm gonna push myself in this practice. And I think it was around that time where things began to click for me.
Oh, I definitely, I feel you there, especially because we had to do, we were farming, we'd be training and then we'd be farming for the vegetables that we would then be eating for lunch. Or
Oh wow.
some days you'd wake up and there'd be no training and you'd just be farming and you'd be
Hmm.
like, well, this is what it is. It was a shock. I saw it as, because I like change, I like new things. So when they
Hmm.
threw, a curveball out there, such as farming, or like
Hmm.
something different from what we were doing as a routine, because sometimes the routine can get
Yeah.
dry and
I
stale,
love the
right? So
curveballs as well.
yeah, exactly.
Because
So
it's like the same
I
thing every day, the
yeah,
same 7 hours every day, and it's really hard. Like sometimes, again, we'd get those. We're gonna climb the mountain today. We'll
yeah,
be like, yes, thank
yeah.
God, something different.
It's rewarding, right? Especially when you're eating the food that you've just picked. So it's, and you're then feeding the children there as well. They're also farming the fields as well. So you don't want to fail them. You don't want to let people around you down. So this is how people live, and you came here to experience something beyond what the city life has to offer. So for me, I was open to it,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I actually over time quite enjoyed it. But
Mm. Yeah, well, I remember one of our curveballs was it was the best one of my best memories out there. Like our coach could see we're all just drained, tired. I think there was a lot of stress around that time as well, because you're living very close with each other, and sometimes it all gets too much, and we kind of project on each other and things like that. So I think our coach could see we're all just exhausted,
mm,
emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna take you guys somewhere special today," and he took us for a walk, and it was like really beautiful trail through the mountain, and we got to this like pergola where there was like just a lake all across, like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And it was around springtime at this time, so it was warming up and stuff, and everyone just took off their clothes and just jumped in this lake, and it was just
oh
like,
wow,
yeah, woo! It was just something we really needed, just that like liberating, freeing kind of experience. It was really,
yeah.
yeah.
Especially like there were times where I needed to just get away. Like
Mhm.
I needed to get away. I needed to go to the bar, or I needed to
Mhm.
go to the cinema with a mate, and
Yeah.
just get pissed. There were times where, honestly, there were
Yeah.
times where we just go to we'd get like a bottle of yellow wine, or we'd get some baijiu, which is spirit that you can get
Mhm.
for like 10 pence over there, and we just sit and we drink out of a cup, just like in the evenings, just me and Nathan,
Mhm.
in our kung fu attire. And the master would sometimes have a drink with us and things like this. So
Mhm.
alcohol wasn't really forbidden at all. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
we didn't obviously, we didn't get pissed, because in the morning we'd be screwed. But there were a couple of times, one in particular where we went out, and it came back in the morning, and we
Mhm.
actually got we actually got caught, not from coming back in the morning, but a video was sent from a bar with me with a microphone in my hand and a whiskey in the other, singing, rapping to Tupac, and that video somehow landed in the hands of my coach, and she showed it to me at 7 o'clock in the morning, calling me a liar. Um, and I just remember laughing, because at that time I just I couldn't imagine someone saying, "Oh, you can't go out." So I was kind of struggling with that concept of someone having power over my ability to make
Mhm.
decisions as an adult. So there was a
Yeah.
bit of
Yeah.
a
I mean
a
that came up
complex
for
there.
me as well. I think it was just after you left actually, because you stayed for about 6 months, so I was at it for a good
Yeah.
6 months. Same routine, training day after day, discipline, 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 and I was just like, I've had enough, man. Because I still had that rebellious teenager in me that wants to just break free and break the rules, and it was very much there. And I did so much, I just felt like I need an escape. And I mentioned that new English student George that was there. There was another student that was at a different school as well. He was Australian, complete, Australian, just maddest, most stereotypically Australian kind of guy you can meet. Hilarious, like really funny guy. And then he was, yeah, again, completely undisciplined. He was every, I think, every couple of weeks he would escape to the closest city to Wudangshan, which was Xi'an. It was called.
Oh,
And one time he I guess told me and Jordan, come on, just come out one time with me. Let's have some fun, And we're like, screw it. Like we just escaped the school. Like we dressed up. We went out with this guy. Yeah, we went out and we went to the city Xi'an, got a taxi there, and it was like, oh my god, finally we're free. We went to this bar where loads of Chinese people they like to play dice, like they put dice in a little cup and
liar,
throw it,
liar.
and yeah, a game like that. It was we would get just drinking loads of beer, getting pissed, like having jokes with like, and some of them spoke a little bit of English as well because it was like the closest big city, I guess. So it was fun to finally have a bit of fun, bit of communication. It was
I mean, the
hilarious.
temptations are always there, man. They never disappear.
It is.
The temptation.
We went to a
is
club.
always there.
I probably have a video somewhere. Oh, it was so funny. Yeah, and then I go back to the school and they were like, "You're still training today. I don't care." Like again, got a bit of the bamboo when I got back for doing that, but it was worth it.
That bamboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
So,
times.
I think just one more question I'll ask you before we wrap up. Is, what do you take away from that experience then? What have you learned from staying on the mountains for a year? Obviously myself 6 months. What did you take? What were the biggest takeaways from that?
So I'd say in the beginning, like I thought I was in over my head. It was nice to have met you, someone I could, I guess, talk to, play chess with. Like it kind of helped the experience, the initial integration of that experience. I was also questioning if I had come to the right place, And I remember also there was a story. We were randomly walking through town, and we ended up meeting this old lady who invited us to her house, and she made us some buns. Really lovely lady. She actually did a bit of kung fu herself and was showing us some of her moves. And I remember I was right before going to China. I was studying Hermeticism. And I often talk about following the right rabbit or looking out for signs when you're there to see if you're in the right place, doing the right thing. And she gave me this book, which is literally, it's called Tai Chi Chuan, The Code of Life. And this symbol here is the symbol of Hermeticism. It's, you've probably seen my necklace before. Yeah, it's one of my favorite symbols with the Taoist symbol, the yin and yang symbol there. So it's a book about Hermeticism and Taoism, like how they connected. And I was like, wow, what are the chances?
It's a full circle, man.
Of that. So that was a big sign for me. I'm in the right place. I'm on the right journey. And again, 3-4 months, that's when it started to click. I was there for a while. I had to really persevere, really dedicate myself to show I was that frontline material. And by that stage, after I had learned Tai Chi, I kind of knew how I wanted to go about my training. So I'm a massive fan of, it's one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's called The Last Airbender. Don't know if anyone's seen it before, but it's essentially about 4 tribes. There's a fire tribe, a water tribe, an earth tribe, and an air tribe. And essentially they can control the element. And then you have an avatar who is the one avatar that can essentially do all 4 of the element bending, and it's his purpose to keep balance within the world, essentially. And after beginning to study Kung Fu, when I was watching that cartoon again, I was like, wow, wait, the forms they're doing are the forms they're teaching here. So the Tai Chi was the water bending. There's a form called Ba Ji, which is very grounded and strong. Like that was the earth bending. There was this dragon dance in that cartoon, in which was the fire bending, or the root of the firebenders. And then you had Bagua, which is like circle walking, a very evasive form, which was the air bending. And I was like, wow, I can learn all these things. I've always been a massive anime geek. I was like, this is how I'm going to do my training. 1 month I started with the Tai Chi. Then I went on, I did the more external form, as I said, the Baji, which was a stamping and strong and like elbowing and punching. And like, it was really like a tough form for my body to learn. Loads of injuries through that, but I persevered through it. And then again, you went up to the internal practice, which was Bagua. So I started doing like circle walking. He literally had me walking in circles for training, like just hundreds and hundreds of circles. And again, it's similar to Tai Chi, that slow, patient kind of training. It's a form that took a lot of patience, a lot of internal work, a lot of, evasiveness.
So
And then finally finished with the dragon, which was again by that stage I had to be very acrobatic because there's a lot of jumping, a lot of kicking, a lot of
No, I was going to say, so essentially you gained a lot of skills out
mm,
there.
for
Really.
sure, for sure, yeah. Yeah, it was. I did a couple of weapon forms as well, the sword, the staff, but it was each form had its own kind of way of self cultivating. It was like, yeah, it's all mental and physical cultivation. That was the whole year, all the training, and I remember by the end for me, like it finally started to come together. Like, because for yourself, sometimes you're looking and you don't see your own progress, but then by that month 9, month 10, like we had new students coming and they started like looking at my training like, wow, you're so awesome. I can't wait till I like get like you. And I was like, I actually
Mm.
started being, somewhat of inspiration to newer students. And I was like, wow, I've really come so far to someone that couldn't even climb up Wudang Mountain. And by the end of the year, I was running up those stairs. I got up the mountain. I was the most physically fit I have ever been in my life. One of the best weights, one of the best physiques I ever had in my life was. I mean, you can understand if you're training 7 hours a day. It was just, yeah, it was really intense. And I guess by the end of that journey for me, this is something that's not often given to or offered to foreign students as well. Because again, it's usually someone would come out for a month or up to 3 months. I was there for a year, so I was actually offered the ability to become a disciple, which is, as you
Yeah.
know, you told me about disciples. It's something that's very esteemed in China, right?
Yeah, the discipleship. I remember one of my friends that was training at my school had that opportunity as well. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's like students that do over a year get that
Mm-hmm.
option to become
Mm-hmm.
disciples, or even longer, because you're then you're a representation of that particular sect, and you'd only really be chosen as a disciple if you have the necessary
Skilled enough.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
skilled, but also the character
Character as well, yeah. I remember as well, I discussed
represent.
around halfway, because often we talk to the master and things like that. I also, while I
Mm,
was out there, I had some time with him because I did a 7-day fast under his kind of guidance, literally 7-day water fast. So I actually spoke to him a lot more during that time. And I kind of asked, will I be able to be a disciple? And he said it depends how you do. Like, if you really motivate yourself and self cultivate yourself, and by the end, we'll have to see. Because also part of the training in my school was every Wednesday. My worst nightmare, by the way. Every
mm.
Wednesday, which was one of our rest days, by the way. So it was actually, I was regretting it or anticipating negatively like one of my rest days because we had to perform in front of the master every Wednesday. And again, I said I had anxiety. I also had social anxiety. So when I had first gone out there, essentially, yeah, I was learning to take my first form, and I remember I could
Mm.
do it. I was doing it for about a month, and this is the first time I had to perform because I was new. I didn't have to do it for the first few weeks, so I'd learned this
Yes.
form like the back of my hand. I was doing it every single day, and they were like, "Mario, you're gonna have to perform." And I had so much social anxiety, and the first time I had to perform, I remember my master invited people from the army. There was some news people there. There was about 70, seriously, 70 people there watching these performances. And I was like, oh man. And then I went up there and I tried to do my form and I failed completely. And I was like, okay, let me try it. Let me start again. And I failed. And I literally had ran off. Like, I couldn't do it. And it was the worst way possible to start. And then I started
It is
asking
what it
myself,
is, though,
why?
man.
Yeah, why can I not do it in front of other people, but I can do it myself? And I realized it was that what we discussed with the Allegory of the Cave. It's the ego. It's like we're watching or observing how we're being observed. It's almost like you're looking at yourself through a third person rather than being present. And like that's the essential, teaching of Taoism and Tai Chi. It's about being fully present, fully engulfed in the present, not being in a non-dual state, being in a non-dual state, not kind of separating the mind and the body, but
No,
being
100%.
fully present with your breath, with your movements, with your breathing. So that also became somewhat of a practice for me. And yeah, I remember by the end, I was offered the ability to be a disciple, and just the comparison of running off stage like completely embarrassed, and to the end, I
Mm.
remember after becoming a disciple, every master in Wudang was usually comes to these disciple ceremonies. I believe your master might have been there as well, and they essentially
Probably.
observe this. You essentially have to recite in Chinese, so the vows to uptake Taoism and lead your life in a good way. All presented with a sword. Um, and yeah, he then asked, I didn't even anticipate this. Now all the students are going to perform something for in front of all the masters of Wudang. And by this stage, though, I had cultivated my mind, I cultivated my body, and
Yeah.
I was ready. There was no fear there. And I ended up doing the airbending, the Bagua form. Um, and I did it so well. I remember the new students like, oh wow, which bending is that? Because he was also into the Avatar, the Last Airbender. One said, oh, that's the airbending, isn't it? And like I just remember like they all
Putting it
clapped for
all
me.
together, man.
Yeah, it all came together at the end there, and I really overcame my anxiety. I really overcame my physical kind of laziness, the sloth, the greed, the lust. Like I went out there to self cultivate, and it was really amazing journey to do that for me.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly on tackling those internal issues, for sure. I suppose with me, I didn't share the same similar issues that you have, but for
Hmm.
me, definitely in terms of like discipline
Hmm.
and remaining focused on a particular task and not losing track of what I'm doing in the present and always
Hmm.
thinking about the future. That was something that I struggle with, is always having ideas, so many different ideas that I want to manifest in the
Hmm.
future, but then not being able to remain in the present and deal with
Hmm.
one step at a time.
Hmm.
So being at on Wudang Mountain and training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and learning styles and having a set routine so that I have to be consistent within that. That really forced me to challenge or yeah, to tackle those issues that I have regarding focus,
Hmm.
and becoming present in the moment, and living a routine out from the beginning until the end. So for me, that was a big takeaway: being more disciplined
Like, there was no
and
escape for you,
less.
especially in your school. You had the gates. They were very
Yeah, there was
symbolic
the
because
gates. So
because
that's what I needed. I needed someone to lock me down. That's why I
yeah,
went.
yeah.
You know, we
I spoke
Longmen
about
Pi. This
MBTI. You're ENTP, aren't you? They're known for having
It's a
these
very
amazing
adaptable.
ideas, but when it comes to enacting them, they kind of have many unfinished projects essentially. So for this
Yeah,
was your project to finish. Essentially, you were locked in those gates. There was no escape. You had to self cultivate.
yeah, exactly. And I suppose just the mental fortitude it allows you to develop, because obviously, while I was out there, I actually got injured about 2 months in, and I actually had to train with that injury, which was a bit
Hmm.
silly of me to do that. But I took breaks, about I had some time off from training to heal, which I needed. But yeah, definitely having developing an injury out there while at the same time trying to make the most out of that experience was a challenge in itself, because it's not something that you really want to go through, having nerve damage in your shoulder when you're
Hmm.
meant to be training, which is a product of the training that you were doing. But you're forced to find a way to uh, make the most out of the time that you have there. Because I was meant to be staying there for a year, but obviously I had to return back to get checked up on. Um, and it wasn't worth putting my body through extra damage when your body's telling you something. So
Hmm.
yeah, having that mental strength to be able to endure a foreign land while also being in an uncomfortable position, having to
Hmm.
train but not being able to train, and then being stuck with not much to do besides what I'm passionate about. So that was when I focused more on different subjects and my studies when my physical body failed me, which
Hmm.
was also nice. So it was being able to adapt to my injury at the time as well, because it was, I could step aside from the physical side of the training and focus more on my studies and what I was passionate about, which was, just another sign of adaptability, which
Hmm.
was a strength that I was able to improve over there. So yeah, the takeaways from that experience was the 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 comfort that you get from really challenging yourself and the rewards that you get from it. And that is only just fed throughout my life. You know, that mindset of that optimistic mindset of having a goal and trying to manifest it, that will never disappear. You know, that drive to to move away to another country and just survive will never disappear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
and that
absolutely.
translates to a multitude of things. And that just means having ideas and diving headfirst and, you know, trusting the process, trusting your self-belief, trusting your skill set, trusting your mental fortitude, and not shying away from opportunity. So all of these different things, you know, were furthered during my experience. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, amazing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well done for your journey. And yeah, again, for myself, it was one of the most transformational experiences I ever had. Obviously, coming back is something I can share now. I teach Tai Chi in health clubs. I've done a few performances as well, something I never dreamed I would be able to do. You know, I've done Tai Chi performances in front of crowds of 50 to 100 people.
Yeah, so there's you tackling, obviously, you've overcome that anxiety.
That fear, that anxiety,
You are now a leader in that domain in terms of showmanship. Yeah,
it's more when you're fully present, it's like no one else is there, you know, because you're not looking through their eyes, you're looking through your own eyes. You're being fully present with your breath, your movements, and that's what the yin and yang essentially is. It is duality, but it's also two things becoming one. It's the mind, the body, you know, coming together in that moment. You know, you're being fully present, fully. Yeah, I remember there was a study 100%. That was done where they asked people what's the happiest moment of your life, and they ended up finding out the most people's heights is when they had entered a non-dual state.
Well, the flow state.
The flow state, yeah, exactly that. It's the flow state. It's where there's no voices in your head. It's just you're there. You're in the moment. It's when you could be playing music and you get so into it. Like that's the flow state. And
100%.
Yeah, I guess it's the practice of entering the flow state.
Definitely. All right, wicked, man. I think it was, it was nice to reflect on a bit of nostalgia there. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. I enjoyed it, Jason. I hope we, inspired people to follow their own journey. Like if there's anything you want to do, I'd say, really push yourself to do it. Tell people you're going to do it. You know, get yourself in a position where you're able to do it and go for it, man. Like, I mean, we get one life. We're on a rock in infinite space, literally floating in infinite space. We have a certain amount of days to be alive. I think it's I'm not going to mess up the boat. 30,000 days, I think.
Apparently, I can't remember how many months. It's something like I can't remember. There's a very small number of months that you're actually alive.
Yeah, I think it's around 30,000 days. So you have that amount of time to be on this rock in infinite space floating, and for the merest moments, why not have a crazy ass experience to tell
100%.
Your kids, your grandkids
100%.
about. So yeah, that's my message to the viewers. And yeah, I guess to finish, just want to thank everyone for watching, taking the time to listen. For any people that haven't subscribed, please be our subscribers. We've got loads of new interesting concepts to come. Please comment on topics you'd like us to discuss as well. And yeah, like the video, share with your friends, your family. Thank you overall for listening. Peace out.
Thanks. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you back in the next video. Peace out.
Welcome to the Sageverse. Please just observe the birth of this creative surge for the purpose to leave hatred purged and replaced with words that will make you learn to take your place on earth. And once you've taken your place and found your greatest of traits, cultivated the day, this will be making you say this is the Sage's way.